There's an invisible thread that runs through time and space, connecting souls who recognize each other even before their first meeting. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, taught that when two souls are destined to meet, not even the darkest forces in the universe can prevent it. Because there's a greater power governing true encounters, a force that transcends human understanding and operates through universal laws written long before our first breath. Imagine for a moment you're walking down a busy street. Thousands of people pass you daily, but suddenly your eyes meet someone else's, and something within you awakens. It's not just physical attraction, not just curiosity. It's a profound recognition, as if your soul whispers, "I know you." This moment isn't accidental. According to Cayce's teachings, it's the physical manifestation of a meeting already written in the stars, a reunion the soul has been preparing for across many lifetimes. Think of those relationships that weathered seemingly destructive storms, families separated by misunderstandings, friends estranged by pride, couples divorced through miscommunication. How many times have you seen people who deeply loved each other reunite years later, as if time hadn't passed, as if the hurt was merely a temporary veil over true love? This happens because real love, the love born of the soul, knows no time or space. It exists on a plane where human offenses cannot penetrate. Cayce frequently spoke of the Akashic records, that cosmic library where all soul experiences are recorded. Imagine that every significant relationship you've had, every deep connection you formed, every person who touched your life in a transformative way, it's all recorded in your soul's eternal memory. And when you reconnect with these people, whether in this life or others, you're not just forming a new relationship, you're continuing a story that began long ago, in other dimensions, in other bodies, but with the same essence, the same soul. This explains why sometimes we meet someone and instantly feel as if we've known them a lifetime, because maybe we have. Perhaps in other lifetimes you were family, friends, teachers and students, lovers who vowed to find each other again. The soul doesn't forget these promises. It carries with it, through each death and rebirth, the memories of love, the lessons learned, and the determination to honor commitments made on higher planes. When destiny unites two souls, it doesn't do so capriciously. There's a higher purpose, a lesson both need to learn, a mission they can only fulfill together. Perhaps one soul needs to teach the other about forgiveness, and the other needs to show the first what true vulnerability is. Perhaps they shared pain in past lives and now need to transform that pain into wisdom. Perhaps they are souls who erred together before and now have the opportunity to mend what was broken, heal what was wounded, and bless where they once cursed. Therefore, when negative forces try to interfere with these destined connections, they're fighting against the very laws of the universe. It's like trying to stop the wind with your hands or hold back the tide. They may create temporary turbulence, but they can't alter the larger course of events. Destiny is patient, but it's also determined. It finds other paths, other ways, other opportunities for souls to meet and fulfill their mission together. Observe your own life. How many times have you tried to force relationships that weren't meant to be? How many times have you fought against connections that seemed impossible, yet kept returning to your life like waves returning to the shore? Have you noticed that the more you try to control love, the more it escapes? But when you surrender to the natural flow of things, when you trust divine timing, the right people show up at the right time, and the relationships that are meant to be find a way to flourish. Edgar Cayce taught us that patience is one of the most important virtues a soul can cultivate. Not passive patience, which simply waits for things to happen, but active patience, which works on itself, prepares itself, heals itself, perfects itself while awaiting divine encounters. Because when two souls are destined to unite, each needs to be ready to receive the other. They need to have learned their individual lessons, healed their personal wounds, and developed the spiritual maturity necessary to honor the sacredness of the encounter. We often interpret the obstacles that arise in our relationships as signs that they're not meant to be. But Cayce taught us that this isn't always the case. Sometimes obstacles are tests, challenges that invite us to grow, to become stronger, to develop qualities we don't yet possess. Sometimes the resistance we encounter is the universe asking us, do you really want this? Are you willing to fight for it? Are you prepared for what comes next? And therein lies one of life's great ironies. The deepest and most transformative connections are often the ones that face the most resistance. Because the universe knows that what comes too easily doesn't transform us. What comes without challenge doesn't develop our inner strength. What isn't tested by time and circumstance doesn't prove its authenticity. Think of history's greatest loves, the friendships that changed the world, the partnerships that created revolutions. How many of them had an easy path? How many didn't face opposition, criticism, obstacles that seemed insurmountable? But precisely because they were destined connections, because they served a higher purpose, they found ways to overcome everything that tried to separate them. If you're going through a phase where you feel that external forces are trying to destroy a relationship you know is special, remember Edgar Cayce's words, "When destiny unites, no evil force separates." But that doesn't mean you should be passive. It means you should fight, not with anger or despair, but with faith and wisdom. It means you should work on yourself, heal your own wounds, raise your own vibration, and trust that if the connection is truly blessed by the universe, it will find a way to thrive. This also means you must learn to recognize the difference between a destined connection and a personal obsession. Not every relationship we desire is a relationship our soul truly needs. Sometimes we cling to people or situations because they make us secure, or because we fear loneliness, or because our mind has created a fantasy about how things should be. But the soul knows the difference. The soul recognizes when an encounter is karmic, when a connection serves spiritual growth, when a relationship is aligned with a higher purpose. Edgar Cayce had a unique way of discerning these differences. He taught us that truly destined connections always uplift us, always inspire us to be better versions of ourselves, always connect us more deeply with the divine. They may be challenging, they may force us to confront our fears and limitations, but always in the context of growth and evolution, never in the context of destruction or diminishment. When you're in a destined connection, you feel you're becoming more of who you truly are, not less. You feel you're discovering parts of yourself you didn't know, not losing parts of yourself you valued. You feel you're being called to expand, to evolve, to transcend your previous limitations. And the other person feels the same. There's a reciprocity in growth, a synergy in transformation. On the other hand, when you're in a connection that's not destined, even if it's intense, you often feel you're losing pieces of yourself. You feel smaller, more limited, more confused about who you really are. There may be passion, there may be drama, there may be a feeling of being alive, but there isn't the deep peace that comes from soul recognition. There isn't the feeling of being in the right place, at the right time, with the right person. This is where it's important to pause our conversation, because if these words are resonating with your soul, if you're recognizing truths you've known intuitively but never heard expressed this way, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. It's not just about receiving more content, it's about becoming part of a community of awakened souls who are seeking truth, who are committed to spiritual growth. When you subscribe, you're telling the universe that you're ready to receive more wisdom, more insights, more tools to navigate your spiritual journey with greater awareness and purpose. Returning to our conversation about destiny and soul connections, it's important to understand that not everyone destiny puts in our path is meant to stay forever. Some come to teach specific lessons, to heal particular wounds, to help us develop qualities we don't yet possess. Once the lesson has been learned, the healing has happened, the quality has been developed, these people may leave our lives as mysteriously as they entered. This doesn't diminish the importance of the connection. It doesn't mean the love wasn't real or that the relationship failed. It means the soul is wise and the universe is efficient. It doesn't waste energy maintaining connections that have already served their purpose. It doesn't force souls to stay together when they've already exchanged all the gifts they had to offer each other. Edgar Cayce often spoke about different types of karmic relationships. Some are debt relationships, where one soul needs to make amends to another for past life actions. Others are growth relationships, where two souls come together to learn specific lessons that can only be learned together. There are also service relationships, where evolved souls choose to work together to help other souls on their spiritual journey. And then there are soulmate relationships, those rare and precious connections where two souls are literally two halves of a greater whole. In these cases, separation isn't just painful, it's nearly impossible. Because when destiny unites soulmates, it's reuniting something that was never meant to be apart. These connections transcend time, space, even death. They persist through incarnations, grow through experiences, and deepen through challenges. But here, it's important not to romanticize the concept of a soulmate too much. Cayce taught us that finding your soulmate isn't the end of the spiritual journey, it's just the beginning of a new phase. Because when two souls recognize themselves as one unit, they take on cosmic responsibilities. They become instruments of the divine, channels for universal love to manifest in the physical world. They are together not just for their own happiness, but to serve a higher purpose, to contribute to the elevation of human consciousness. This explains why soulmate relationships are often the most tested, the most challenged by negative forces. Because these forces know that when two soulmates consciously unite, they become a powerful force for good in the world. They radiate a light that can awaken other souls, inspire other hearts, and accelerate the process of humanity's spiritual evolution. Therefore, when you suspect you have a soulmate connection with someone, it's important to understand that this comes with great responsibilities. It's not just about finding someone who completes you, it's about becoming a conduit for divine love to manifest through you. It's about using your connection as a tool for healing, for service, for the elevation of consciousness. And herein lies another profound teaching of Edgar Cayce. When two souls are truly destined to work together, they often go through periods of separation before finally uniting. These periods aren't punishments or mistakes of fate. They are opportunities for each soul to develop its individual strength, heal its personal wounds, and prepare for the intensity of the destined union. Many times, we interpret these separations as signs that the relationship wasn't meant to be. But Cayce taught us that sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes, separations are necessary so that we can become worthy of the connection destiny has in store for us. They give us time to grow, to mature, to develop the qualities we will need to honor the sacredness of the encounter. During these periods of separation, many people make the mistake of trying to force the reconnection. They chase, they plead, they try to manipulate circumstances to make the relationship happen again. But this only creates more resistance, more obstacles, more delay in divine timing. The path of wisdom is to use the time of separation to work on oneself, to heal, to prepare, and to trust that if the connection is truly destined, it will find a way to manifest again at the right time. This is one of the hardest lessons for the human heart. Learning to love without clinging, to desire without controlling, to have faith without guarantees. But it's also one of the most liberating lessons, because when you learn to trust divine timing, you free yourself from the anxiety and despair that come from trying to control the uncontrollable. Edgar Cayce taught us that time is an illusion of the human mind. From the soul's perspective, there is no past or future, only an eternal present where everything that was, is, and will be exists simultaneously. When you understand this, you stop worrying about when things will happen and start focusing on who you are becoming while they don't. You begin to realize that every day of waiting is an opportunity to become wiser, more compassionate, more patient. Every challenge you face alone is a chance to develop your inner strength, your connection to the divine, your ability to sustain yourself regardless of external circumstances. And when you become this whole, centered, spiritually mature person, you naturally attract into your life the connections that are aligned with this new level of consciousness. This doesn't mean you should become indifferent to relationships or that you should accept any treatment you receive. It means you should become selective, discerning, able to recognize the difference between connections that serve your spiritual growth and those that merely satisfy temporary emotional needs. Cayce often spoke about the importance of prayer and meditation in preparing for destined encounters. He said that when we pray for guidance in our relationships, when we meditate on the higher purpose of our connections, when we ask the universe to send us only the people who can help us grow spiritually, we create a magnetic field that attracts exactly what we need. But it's important to understand that prayer and meditation are not techniques to manipulate the universe into giving us what we want. They are practices to align our desires with divine will, to open our hearts to receive what we truly need, even if it's not exactly what we thought we wanted. Sometimes, what we need is to learn to be alone, to find our inner completeness before joining with another person. Sometimes, what we need is to heal wounds from past lives that are preventing us from forming healthy connections in the present. Sometimes, what we need is to develop qualities like patience, compassion, or humility that can only be developed through specific experiences. The universe always gives us exactly what we need for our spiritual growth, but it doesn't always give us what we want for our emotional satisfaction. And herein lies the difference between living from the personality and living from the soul. The personality wants pleasure, security, validation. The soul wants growth, evolution, connection with the divine. When you learn to live from the soul, you begin to interpret your relationship experiences in a completely different way. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin to see yourself as a co-creator of your reality. You understand that every person who enters your life, every situation you face, every challenge you overcome, all of it is contributing to your spiritual evolution. And when you embrace this perspective, you become a completely different person. You become someone who attracts connections based on mutual growth, mutual respect, mutual inspiration. And then, when destiny finally unites you with the right people, when those destined connections manifest in your life, you are ready to honor them, to nurture them, to protect them from the negative forces that always try to interfere with what is beautiful and sacred. Because, as Edgar Cayce taught us, when destiny unites, no evil force separates. Not because there are no negative forces trying to interfere, but because the force of divine love, expressed through destined connections, is more powerful than any destructive force. It is more persistent than any obstacle. It is more enduring than any storm. But this divine protection only manifests when we acknowledge the sacredness of our connections and commit to honoring them with our highest conduct. When we treat our destined relationships as sacred gifts, when we dedicate ourselves to being the best version of ourselves within them, when we use these connections as opportunities to practice unconditional love, infinite compassion, and true forgiveness. So, if you are going through a period where you feel that external forces are trying to destroy a relationship that you know is special, remember, you have the power to protect that connection. Not through fighting or resistance, but through raising your own consciousness. Not through control or manipulation, through trust and surrender to divine timing. Work on yourself, heal your wounds, develop your qualities, keep your heart open, but also keep your mind clear. Pray for guidance, meditate on the higher purpose, and trust that if the connection is truly blessed by the universe, it will find a way to thrive, no matter what obstacles are placed in its path. Because in the end, what Edgar Cayce taught us is that real love is not just a feeling, it's a cosmic force. It's an energy that moves planets, that creates worlds, that sustains the entire universe. And when that force chooses to manifest through a specific connection, through two souls who have chosen to work together to serve the divine plan, nothing in the universe can prevent that from happening. It may take time, it may be challenging, it may require growth, change, transformation, but it will happen. Because true love is inevitable, destined connections are inevitable, and the fulfillment of divine purpose through sacred relationships is inevitable. The only question that remains is, are you willing to prepare for these sacred encounters? Are you willing to become the person who deserves to receive destined love? Are you willing to trust in divine timing, even when your human mind can't understand why things are happening the way they are?
If the answer is yes, then you have already taken the first step on the most important journey of your life, the journey of becoming a channel for divine love, the journey of recognizing and honoring the sacred connections that destiny has in store for you, the journey of discovering that when destiny unites, truly no evil force separates. And now, at the end of this reflection, I leave you with a question that echoes from the depths of your soul. What connections in your life do you feel were destined, and how can you honor them more fully, knowing that they are sacred gifts from the universe for your spiritual evolution?